This is OFN NFL Preview. Our Lads Football Network. Week 3 is upon us, Mark, in the NFL. And week 2, wow, you talk about a mash unit across the NFL. But not a surprise, because without the preseason, maybe we had a sense of security week 1. This is probably just the beginning, too. We're going to start seeing more of these ACL injuries. And I don't think it's going to be as bad, though, as in years past, because there was no offseason or preseason where a majority of these ACL injuries occur. But still, we're going to get more and more of these.
We are certainly going to see more and more of them, Greg. It's kind of like young racehorses who, when they get ready to finally hit the track and they haven't been trained long enough, they're the ones that are most prone to injury. And same thing with the NFL football players who didn't have their customary preseason to play through, or their normal camps to begin the football season with. And it all seemed to unravel last week in week number 2. And I don't think we're through with that yet. We'll probably see a few more between now and the next couple of weeks.
And of course, the biggest one was the defending NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. And if there was any trend that we just kept forcing down everybody's throats over the past month, was that that Super Bowl loser trend of just bad stuff happening. And unless it's the Patriots, there's bad stuff happening, and you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know why. Sometimes it's this, sometimes it's injuries, but it happens. And it's just whether you want to call it a jinx or whatever you want to call it. But when you lose the Super Bowl, usually it's not going to be good for you the following season.
No, because the path that you took to get to the Super Bowl was just cherries. It's just roses and cherries, and everything worked your way. And the law of averages says it's not likely to occur the next year. And hence, here come the injuries. And, hence, here come the other teams targeting you. So, it's a real, real tough path for those losers to make it back to the Super Bowl the following year. And San Francisco got away with it last week, at least on the scoreboard and against the point spread. But they surely paid the price on the injuries.
Yeah, Mullins already will be the starting quarterback this week against the Giants, who also lost their superstar in Barkley. So that's not, Mullins, I don't know how long he's going to have to play. He might have to play a few weeks, but you throw in all the other injuries, including Mostert. And, who knows if you can rely on McKinnon. I don't think they want to give McKinnon the ball too much early on this season because of his past knee injuries. I think they want to keep him limited in snaps. So I'm not sure what Coleman's health is like this week either. And the receivers have been banged up. I don't know. I mean, the Giants sure look bad against the Bears, and they have no Barkley. But you throw Mullins out there, and they got some players that are just not superstar players, Bosa, Thomas, and others, Mostert. That's a tough one.
It's a real tough one. Deebo Samuel, the big foot injury. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And, suddenly you're looking at a San Francisco 49er second team or practice squad team. Largely taking the field for them. And if this is ever a golden opportunity for the New York Giants to take advantage of something like that, it could be this. Now, Devontae Freeman, the Giants signed with the loss of Saquon Barkley, should help. Probably play right away.
Probably.
So, yeah, and I got to think that this football team is going to be spirited this week, the New York Giants. And we went so far as to call for the upset with the New York Giants over San Francisco in the newsletter.
You did? Okay. What is the point spread, 4?
4 points right now as we speak.
Thursday night, you have Miami and Jacksonville, and the Jags are about a 3-point favorite in this one. How can you not be impressed with the way the Jags are playing? Gardner Minshew's for real. I always liked him in college. I just figured, okay, he was never going to be a high draft pick because he didn't have the arm strength, and he didn't have this, and he didn't have that. But he has that intangible. He's got like that. I'm not calling him Tom Brady, but he's got like that Brady intangible where you go as you scout him, you take a look at his body, you take a look at the attributes you want in your quarterback, and you go, yeah, pass. This guy's a 5th or 6th rounder. But every once in a while, you get these quarterbacks that buck those trends, And I think Gardner Minshew is going to buck the trend. I think he's going to be around the league a long time. They're not going to have the first pick in the draft this year because they're not going to be that bad. And I think Jacksonville should be pretty good with that because I think they've got their quarterback.
Well, they do, maybe until Trevor Lawrence is available for them. Right now it doesn't look like, they'll be in that position, but who
No,
knows?
I don't think so. No.
By the end of the year, they've really kind of not only played well, but overachieved to begin the football season. But I will say this, though. This is not an ideal spot for Jacksonville, just given the fact that as good as Minshew played, they did just go up against back-to-back division opponents. So now suddenly they're maybe not as zeroed or focused in on this game as they were perhaps those first two football games. And then you've got the Ryan Fitzpatrick thing, who had a bad week last week. And, now we'll find out. Fitzpatrick is famous he's a very cyclical quarterback. He's either very, very good or very, very bad. And the question remains, is he on the bad trail right now?
Yeah.
Will he bounce back if he has another poor performance? It's going to be that way for a while. But the bottom line here to me is I think the Miami Dolphins are in an ideal spot here, catching Jacksonville flat, if you will. Remember, this is a Jacksonville team that unloaded a ton of starters just before the season started. And it looked like they were just going to basically go through the motions, wait for that first pick, and say, we're going to select Trevor Lawrence. But, it's not been the case here thus far. I don't know if they got 3 good games in a row in them. We're going to find out in this football game here, but I'm going to have a small lean to Miami in the football game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Jacksonville, and I think I think what helps them is that it's a Thursday night game. I think if this was a Sunday game, maybe they drop their guard a little bit more. But they're playing in front of a national TV audience. I'm assuming it's the only time they're going to have a national TV game this year, being it's a Thursday game, and everybody thought they'd have the first pick in the draft. So it's probably their only primetime game. It's a Florida State game, even though there really is no rivalries down there. But it is a state game. And Miami's defense is just so bad. I mean, right now, they can't stop anybody. And Jacksonville's offense is outperforming. They're doing pretty well. I think that's why I think you hit it on the head with Fitzpatrick. If Miami wins this game, I think it's going to be one of those games. It's probably 33-30.
I think so, too, because Fitzpatrick will come alive and they'll be able to go toe-to-toe with Jacksonville. If he doesn't, and you get a flat effort from Miami here, off of that disappointing loss to Buffalo. They could have laid down and died in the Buffalo game, but they did it to their credit. And, that probably goes to the coaching. And we'll see whether or not it will pay dividends in this football game.
And the other thing, too, Jacksonville is coming off a loss. So It's not like they're like, hey, we're 2-0. Right. Yeah, we can kind of relax. Okay, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, because good for them. When we talked about the game last week, we talked about how important this game was going to be because they were going to have to go cross-country, short week. So it was important for them to win the game against the Saints if they could, if they were seriously thinking about being a playoff team. And they went ahead and did it. They beat the Saints. They had a good win. Derek Carr had his moments. That's important if they're going to take that next step. Derek Carr is going to have to show that he can do more than just dink and dunk. And he did that. Threw for 282, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Problem is, once again, first they're 2-0. So you can easily, and the Patriots are coming off a loss. So you can easily see how that's also already an issue. Then you look at some of the trends, which, by the way, you can pick up here at playbook.com. You can go and order it at playbook.com. You can pick up playbook.com at Books A Million, Barnes & Nobles. And a couple of interesting trends working against Vegas this week. They're 1-6 against the spread following a Monday night game. And more importantly, they're 1-15 against the spread on the road after back-to-back straight-up wins. That's a bad number, 1-15.
Yeah, that's a real bad number for this football team. Then you can also throw in the fact that in the last 5 games against teams out of the AFC East, they didn't win the money one time. This has got, to me, massive letdown written all over it for the Raiders football team. I know that John Gruden, he really gambled and rolled with the dice in that football game, because when he opted to kick that 54-yard field goal,
oh yeah,
I mean, if he doesn't do it, and the percentages say he's not going to make it, but he did. But if he doesn't, he's opening the door for Drew Brees to lead his team right down the field, as he's done so many times in his career, on a short field.
Sure.
But he did it, and they're happy. They're 2-0, and I will say this: they're 2-0, but this football team has been very choppy in the stats, doing just that here as well. So be careful of them. And you've also got New England on the other side, who really outperformed statistically, at least on the field, in that game last week. But you would have thought that if we knew, if I knew, if you knew, if the world knew, the defensive teams knew that Cam Newton was going to run the football from the 1 yard line,
Yeah.
why on earth would Bill Belichick run Cam Newton with the football from the 1 yard line? And there had to be a better play somewhere to be called other than that. I'm not second guessing Belichick's play calling, but wasn't that a little bit too much of the obvious?
Yeah, I think that's actually a problem for the Patriots in general. Gronk's gone. You take a look at it, the only big receiver that they can look at is Harry. He's not there yet that they can trust that he's the guy to throw the ball with in that circumstance. So it's a tough one. So one of those things where, okay, I guess maybe you could do a fake handoff. Maybe you get lucky, you get the tight end that gets wide open. Somebody gets open. You have, like you said, a play designed to get someone open on a fake handoff, bootleg kind of deal. So I get what you're saying as far as just snapping the ball and having Cam Newton try to run the ball up the gut. That was the surprising part. I did expect a little bit more creativity in the run, at least in the play call.
Yeah, if not even Cam Newton rolling out, doing something, not just advancing 2 feet with the football. But that was a sad way to see a really, really good football game end.
And Russell Wilson, and we've seen him do it before, and he's successful at it. That's why he did it. Why he tried it. But you're talking about second guessing. Russell Wilson has got 3rd and 1, and he's chucking the ball 40 yards down the field to like their number 4 wide receiver. Like, okay, why'd you do that?
That was head scratching, to say the least. Yes. Right.
Yeah. So both teams left themselves open there. But the fact is, like you said, it was a great football game. And the Patriots sure looked good that they can throw the football. 397 in the air for Newton. Look, it's nice to see Vegas playing well, but they're not at the level yet where we can see them winning 2 straight, winning a game on Monday night, traveling to the East Coast, and then just go ahead and beating the Patriots. I mean, I just don't think they're that good yet. As much as I like everything going on with the Raiders, that's what happens when the really good teams in the league can accomplish something like that. I just don't think the Raiders are that good yet.
No, I don't think they are yet either. I think they're about to be exposed, but tip of the hat to them. They got out to this great 2-0 start. It's just unfortunate nobody was there at that brand new stadium.
Yep.
See that. That was sad.
Yep, getting real sick of that, that's for sure. All right, the other team from the West Coast, the LA Rams, are also heading east. They're going to take on Buffalo, battle of 2-0 undefeated teams. And our Rams, we talked about them as a nice sleeper at 60-1 to win the Super Bowl before the season began. So they're making us look good so far. I'm a little bit concerned with the Joe Noteboom injury because that's an offensive lineman. That's a huge part of keeping Jared Goff upright, being able to run the football. I'm happy to see Henderson get the opportunity to run the football when Akers went down, because as much as Akers had a nice preseason, fact is Henderson was a little bit banged up in the preseason, and I'm talking about, of course, not the games, but the preseason, and that enabled Akers to get the opportunity early in game 1 and game 2. But Henderson is a better player than Akers right now, and I'm glad Henderson was able to get in the game and prove that. He's a home run hitter. So I think even if Henderson plays over Akers or even Brown, I think the Rams are actually in better shape. Overall, though, this is a tough test for them to play a Buffalo Bills team offensively that's on fire. Josh Allen can run the ball. They can pass the ball now. Diggs had his breakout game against Miami. 900 yards of total offense already this season for Buffalo. The trends, though, seem to favor the Rams in this one. They have covered 9 straight as non-conference road dogs of 7 or fewer points. And the Bills are just 1-6 against the spread as a favorite versus an opponent off a double-digit straight-up win. Under McVay, the Rams have also covered 5 of 7 as a road dog overall. So, but it's 2.5. So it's pretty much you win, you cover, you lose, that kind of thing. I don't know. It's that's tough to call that the Rams are going to win this game because Buffalo looks awfully good right now.
Buffalo looks real good right now. In fact, they could probably start thinking about playing the disrespect card. They've done absolutely nothing wrong. They're the new team to beat in the AFC East. Let's admit that.
Yep.
They're playing as good as anybody right now, and I think they are the team to beat. But what you've got here in trying to take the Rams out in this contest is Buffalo has never fared well extending winning streaks. When they're up back-to-back wins, the last 20 times they've been up back-to-back wins, they're just 4-16 straight up to come back with only 5-point spread covers within that streak. So it's a little bit difficult here. Now, I know there's Stephon Diggs in this football team, and he means a ton to this team here. And in fact, it goes hand in hand with how well they're playing and how poorly Minnesota is. That just shows you what the contrast is with Stephon Diggs has had. Minnesota doesn't have him, Buffalo does, and look at the result, the difference between the two football teams. Now, we've got Josh Allen performing like he's never performed before in college or in the National Football League. The question is, can he, after topping 300 yards for the first time 2 weeks ago and then 400 yards last week, can he continue to ascend? And that's the question I have here in this football game. The biggest hurdle that the Rams have to overcome is the fact that it is 2 games in a row on the East Coast, and they did go home after that last game. They had the opportunity to stay there, to stay east, but to do so, they would have to play by the COVID rules. And the new COVID rules say that if they want to do that, they were only allowed to go to practice in their hotel rooms, nothing else. And they didn't want to do that, okay? They didn't want to have to play by those rules. That's why they opted to go back home, have their team meetings, have their practices, and do what they want to do, and then choose to take the flight back out here. Now, will it affect this football team? A lot of people think so. I'm not one of them. I like the Rams. I think, as you said, we took them early as a big surprise dog to win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to at least make the playoffs here, and I think they're going to pick up the win here in Buffalo on Sunday as well.
All right. Let's now. Oh, but it's interesting. Last week we had talked about the win and usually you cover deal, and
Yes.
there was only one loss in week 1. Well, week 2 was just crazy, and it's you're having one of those bad weeks when most of the time you're involved in those exact games where the team won and didn't cover. And that's kind of the week it was for me. I had and then flip it. And the one time it looked like that a team was going to win and not cover, that was going to work in my benefit, was Carolina getting 9 against Tampa. And then Fournette busts loose for a 47-yard touchdown run to cover the game, which doesn't usually happen. It's not college football. So it was just one of those weeks, but it was interesting that there were, I think, maybe 4 teams that didn't cover after they won last week, something like that. That's very unusual.
Yeah, it was a little bit abnormal that way last week, and you probably don't expect to see it happening 2 times in a row. So
yeah,
I would just suggest keep your focus on the teams you think are going to win the football games, and you'll probably stand a pretty good chance of cashing some money.
I would agree with that. All right, Chicago and Atlanta. Now, this is interesting because I'm not even going to put any trends into this one. This is just about you got a 2-0 Bear team against an 0-2 Falcon team. The 0-2 Falcon team is the favorite, which they should be. And I see no reason to think that the 0-2 Falcon team is not going to win this game because I don't see Atlanta going 0-3 and the Bears 3-0. It's less likely the Bears go 3-0. That's for sure. So who knows? Maybe this is one of those games, the only game of the week where the dog will lose and cover because Atlanta would do that. But to me, I think Atlanta is going to take all their frustrations out on the Bears this week.
I concur. What you've got in Atlanta here is a team that's probably scratching their head, wondering how did we allow an onside kick to occur? That's almost never happened since there's new rules.
Yeah.
When that collapse happened, it was a complete, total collapse. 3 times with 15-point leads in the game, one of them with less than 5 minutes to go. They can only blame themselves as far as that matter goes. But you got to go back to 2013 to find the last time Chicago opened up a season 3-0.
Hmm.
And I don't believe it's in the cards for them this particular week. This is Atlanta team is too good of a football team, I think, to start 0-3, especially losing 2 of their first 3 football games at home. I think this is a classic return to the norm for both football teams here. Atlanta to come up and Chicago to go down, and the point spread is comfortable enough to lay the points with the Atlanta Falcons.
One of the games that I want to throw in there that just has an interesting trend is Cincinnati at Philly. Philly's favored by 6.5, and with the injuries that they're having, especially along the offensive line, I know it's the Bengals, but look, Burrow threw 61 passes, over 300 yards, and he didn't throw an interception and had 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I know he only averaged 5.2 reception, but still, very impressive. The kid is going to be a superstar, and they battled hard with Cleveland. They covered the game, backdoored it, but whatever. Here, you get an Eagle team who looked terrible against the Rams. They're banged up. They're 4-10-1 against the spread as a home favorite. And the Bengals are 12-5 against the spread in their last 17 as a road dog, including covering last week as a road dog. So I don't know if the Bengals will win this game. I would not be shocked if the Bengals win this game, but I'll take the points. I actually think the Bengals have a chance to win the game, and I'll take the extra 7 points.
Well, I got to give you what would be the stat of the week in the National Football League this week, and inside this Philadelphia-Cincinnati game. Everybody that loves the Eagles, and that's largely people who live in Philadelphia, are going to want to be on them like white on rice this week because they don't think they're going to lose back-to-back home games.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, you'd better go out and secure a loan, okay? If that's the way you're going to approach, you're going to take going into this football game. You go back and you look the last 13 times Philadelphia's lost a home game and been back at home the next week, they are 1-12 straight up and 2-11 to the number. And in fact, in those 13 games coming back home off a home loss, they were favored 9 times and they lost all 9 games straight.
Wow.
Straight up.
Those are the trends of the week.
Yes, they are. That's what I was saying. The trend of the week in that football game, Philadelphia to go flat again.
Okay. Makes me feel even better. All right. Let's take a look now at the Dallas-Seattle game. And this is also one of those games I really look. I mean, the trend that works for the Cowboys is that they've covered 7 straight after they score 35 or more versus an opponent off straight up back-to-back wins. So they do have that going for them. And look, it's interesting because if they would have lost that game, which they were supposed to lose, onside kick, you're supposed to lose. They would have lost that game. They'd be going into Seattle more than likely looking at 0-3.
Yep.
But they got the win, which makes this loss going to feel a little bit easier to take because they're still not healthy. They didn't apparently miss their offensive linemen, because they scored a bunch of points. Seattle's defense is struggling this year, too. They've got some key injuries. Now they lose Irvin and Blair, so that doesn't help them out. But Russell Wilson continues to be the man. You know, we made fun of him a couple of minutes ago, but we could do that because Russell Wilson's the man. And it's a 5-point spread, and they are coming off a primetime game. So, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned with the points. I could see Dallas, and I could see this being a close game. But look, if I'm going to follow the rule and not worry about point spreads, especially at 5 points, then I'm taking Seattle.
Well, if you feel Seattle's going to win the football game,
correct.
I happen to think that they're not. Okay. What I see here in the Seattle Seahawks is a football team that has gotten out to a 2-0 start. They've allowed a ton of yards in doing just that. 970. Okay.
Yeah.
2 games, yet they won both games.
And that's going to keep piling up on Sunday.
Allowing?
Yes, allowing. They're going to keep piling. They'll probably be at 1,500 yards on Sunday.
Well,
but I can see it being 48-41 Seattle. I don't think Dallas is stopping Seattle at all.
Well, but it's not so much Dallas stopping Seattle; it's Seattle stopping Dallas. Okay?
Yeah, yes. Neither team. Go with the over.
You cannot win football games and let the other team keep out-yarding you, and that's exactly what Seattle's done. They're 2-0 this year, straight up and against the spread, but they've been out-yarded in both of those football games. Like I say, allowing almost 1,000 yards in those 2 football games. Then you've got the other side of the coin. where you've got a quarterback in Dak Prescott who is terrific as an underdog in his career, 10-4 against greater than 400 opponents, and then we sealed the deal with what we call our awesome angle of the week in our Playbook football newsletter this week. And it's really simple. All it is any team that's a road dog in game 3 that's taking 3 or more points and it's coming off one loss exact, who lost their first game of the season by 5 or more. Those teams are 21-3 against the spread. That's a real strong number here to the Dallas Cowboys. I just feel Seattle is about to be exposed by a football team that feels very fortuitous in the manner in which they won that football game last week, and I think that momentum carries forward in this contest.
What's the over in the game? Do you know? Total?
Well, it's not.
What do you? It probably should be what in the 60?
It's not 100. No.
It should be 60.
No.
Both these teams are scoring in the 30s. Come on.
No, it's probably the low 50s. Okay.
I'm taking the over. And I'm not a total guy, so I'll probably lose because I don't like totals. But how is this game not going to be in the 60s?
Well, if Dallas decides to play a little bit of defense here, or if the Seattle luck doesn't continue to keep happening the way it has thus far.
Yeah, but offensively, Seattle, this is Russell Wilson's best offense. I mean, he can't. I think their offense is looking so good right now that I just don't see teams stopping them. I just don't. I mean, they're dialed in. They can run. They got receivers. They got tight ends, running backs. The offensive line is okay. They got everything going right now. Russell Wilson, he's gonna average, I would say, between 24 and 28 points a game. They're just, and that's going to be on the low side. I just think they're too explosive offensively, especially for a banged up defense like the Cowboys to stop them. That's the thing. Cowboys are all banged up right now on defense, and I think that we saw that against Atlanta. I can see Dallas winning. I just think it'll be in a high-scoring variety.
Well, it may well be just that because the Seattle defense was weak last year, and it's not good this year. And I don't know how long Pete Carroll can keep rolling the dice and hoping his offense is going to outscore everybody.
Yeah. Well, they have a couple of their young draft picks that those guys have also got to get healthy. Taylor being the top one. And I mentioned Irvin's out now. Blair's out. The good news is Dunbar escaped the potential criminal mischief with Baker, who's gone from the league. And that's a big plus for Seattle to have Dunbar still in that secondary. But they don't have a pass rush. And that's the deal. They got to get healthier in the pass rushing game. Or maybe at the deadline, they got to try to find out. The problem is they've already given the Jets 2 first-round draft picks. I'm not sure what kind of ammunition Seattle has left to get another pass rusher on their team. But, yeah, if they don't start rushing the passer or figuring out a way to do it, getting healthy in that department, it's going to be kind of tough to win a Super Bowl that way.
I believe so. I'm with you 100%.
All right, Green Bay and New Orleans, Sunday Night Football. Unfortunately, it looks like we may not have the 2 best receivers in football playing in this game. Adams had the hamstring injury last week. Thomas, of course, is dealing with the injury. So it looks like that's a bummer. Not that anybody be able to see it because no one will be there. But look, Jones is a fantastic player. He's going to go down all time. Greg DePalma, NFL draft sleepers. I loved him. I'm sure you, as much college football as you watched, you know how good he was at UTEP. He's turning into a fantastic player. Rashawn Gary had a sack and a half last week, which is huge for the Packers defense. They needed somebody like him to step up. New Orleans, Drew Brees didn't look all that great in Monday Night Football. I think it's kind of funny how it's all of a sudden now. Is Drew Brees? Is it over with? And well, coincidentally, he doesn't look all that great. Michael Thomas isn't there. And this is what we talked about in the preseason. It's Michael Thomas and it's Kamara and that's it. That's all they have. They don't have enough depth. It's not like Russell Wilson can go 4 receivers deep, tight ends, running backs. Brees has Kamara and he's got Thomas. That's basically all he has. And when one of those guys goes down, and this is what you're going to see from Drew Brees, plus he's 41 years old. So I think they made a mistake. I think that they should have talked Brees into retiring after last season. I know they didn't want to let him move because he's such a beloved figure in the area, but it is just one game, and Thomas wasn't there. Packers are playing great football right now, but I think they've benefited. The Vikings look terrible. Detroit looks terrible. So we'll see how good the Packers are when they step up in competition on Sunday night.
Well, again, this is one of these games where you've got opposite dichotomies as far as disparate results go. The team couldn't have looked as bad as New Orleans did last week, and maybe not as good as Green Bay looked last week as well. So you bring the two together and you collide in a football game. First of all, you're getting value because the odds makers adjusted the spread accordingly because of the two results. So now you've got New Orleans at home minus a field goal, whereas if this game opened up at the beginning of the season, New Orleans would have probably been closer to -6 in the football game. Okay, so hence value in the game to New Orleans that way. The other thing is Drew Brees, and he is getting long in the tooth, and he's looking like he's long in the tooth. In fact, he's looking a lot like Tom Brady, and his numbers are really diminishing at the rate of which Tom Brady's did over the past couple of years. But nothing more you want on your side than a Hall of Fame quarterback off an embarrassing loss. And he's coming here in his career in games off a non-division contest when he's coming off a non-division loss. He's 24-10 to the spread in those types of football games, including 8-0 straight up and ATS his last 8 games at home on Sunday nights. I like New Orleans in this football game here. Green Bay opens up with 2 division wins. Now they're going to step out onto the road, and they're going to find out what playing a real team is all about. And under the Sunday night lights, I think they can be exposed in a contest like this. I don't like the loss of Michael Taylor for sure, but Green Bay loses their top wide receiver as well, so we'll call that a push or a squash. But I'm going to back the embarrassed team here in New Orleans in this football game at what I feel is the value price.
Okay. Now, here are some trends straight from Playbook that are – I don't think I've ever seen 3 trends in 1 week that are this big, the size of them. So if you like the Saints, here you go. The Saints are 14-1 against the spread versus teams that are 6-6-6 or better as conference teams, by the way. So they have to be an NFC team of 6-6-6 or better, which the Packers are. They're undefeated, following a straight-up win. 14-1 against the spread. Okay, that's 1. Number 2, Saints are 9-0 against the spread versus an opponent off a straight-up double-digit win. That's number 2. Number 3, the Saints have covered 9 straight at home off a straight-up loss versus a non-division conference opponent. Those are huge. 14-1, 9-0, 9-0. And on the flip side, the Packers are just 1-6 against the spread off back-to-back straight-up and ATS wins.
Yeah, what you've got here in most of those New Orleans numbers, Greg, are return to the norm type numbers. And very, very good and powerful in those numbers, taking advantage of situations just like that. And I think we're going to see exactly that under the Sunday night lights here. Very seldom will you see Drew Brees get embarrassed back-to-back football games. And when it's a primetime game, I think there's a better chance than not that it won't happen this Sunday night. So Green Bay, I expect to take their first loss of the season in this game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the trends all say, this is one of those games where I went in without looking at trends on the Packers side. The trends tell me to go with the Saints. So it might be one of those things where I actually stay away from it. Because as you know, in the beginning of the season, I wasn't really high on the Saints making it back to the playoffs this year. All right, let's go with Kansas City and Baltimore. Monday Night Football. It's the big one of the year. Battle of undefeated teams. And this is another situation where you have a lot of trends that favor the Chiefs. They have covered 6 straight as road dogs. They are 14-1 against the spread in a road game off back-to-back straight-up wins. They are 11-1 against the spread as a dog of 3 or more. Baltimore, meanwhile, 2-15 against the spread in revenge games off back-to-back straight-up ATS wins. So there's a lot to like about the Chiefs as far as the trends are concerned. Baltimore also has to find a way to beat the Chiefs. That's a thing in Baltimore. I just spoke to Tony Lombardi from RussellStreetReport.com a little bit earlier, and Tony talked about how important a game this is for Baltimore because they want to show everybody they can beat the Chiefs. They've lost to them recently a few times. This is a hurdle game for them. It's Monday night. This was the first Monday night home game for this organization in like 15 years, 14 years, but nobody's going to be there to see it. So and I wasn't really impressed with the Chiefs last week. I think if the Ravens can make them one dimensional and they have the ability defensively to do that, I could see the Ravens winning this game. But I don't know. This is a tough one to call. The Chiefs have got those trends. The Chiefs have the psychological advantage of beating Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So it's a tough one. Who do you like?
Well, let me set the table here by saying one thing that comes out of my database is in making a case to back a Super Bowl team, whenever they dress up as underdogs the next year, a defending Super Bowl champion, you absolutely want to be on their case.
Okay.
Because they win the money nearly 65% of the time as underdogs the following year. So now what you've got here in Andy Reid, take a look at what he's done the last 5 times that he's taken on an undefeated team when his team is undefeated. A battle of the undefeated. Andy Reid is 5-0. He's
nice.
fared real well in that. Now let's open the calendar up a little bit and look at in the month of September, the first month of the football season here. Patrick Mahomes has never lost a game in September. He's 9-0 straight up, 28 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions to open up a football season is Patrick Mahomes.
That sounds like 100% to me.
That sounds pretty close to 100% to me as well. Now, you've got obviously powerful numbers here to Baltimore. There's no denying that. They're 21-5 behind Lamar Jackson, 11-0 at home during the regular season, where they haven't tasted a defeat. But they haven't played the Kansas City Chiefs yet here either. I want to say that in all those numbers here. Baltimore also, when they've been a single-digit favorite coming off back-to-back wins and covers, they're 0-10 to the spread the last 10 times they've been in this particular role. I think this is a step-up game for Baltimore from the standpoint that everybody's got them on easy street, but they haven't played an opponent this tough. And we'll see whether or not they can step up against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid under those Monday night lights. I'm going to say no and take the points.
Yeah, I mean, the Andy Reid and Chiefs as a dog and Super Bowl dog, that makes an awful lot of sense. And Tavon Young, the slot corner, it's a bad time for him to go down. So, look, yeah, the Ravens do have some good players in that secondary, but still, your starting slot corner is gone. So someone has to step up. It's probably going to be Humphrey, more than likely. But still, that means you move another guy, maybe Jimmy Smith. His role better as a hybrid safety. Now he's got to move back into a role that he wasn't better at, which is maybe an outside corner. This is just not the opponent you want to be messing around with as far as matchups, DBs against receivers. And that's the way it's going to be for the Ravens this week. But this is one of those games that I think also tells us a lot about what happens if these two teams meet in the postseason. Because if the Chiefs beat the Ravens in this game, and they play each other in the playoffs, you got to go with the Chiefs because that means psychologically they have got them buried. The Ravens really have got to win this football game. So if they play in the postseason, they know they can beat the Chiefs.
I'm going to throw one more number at you, Greg, in this game before I close this game out here. I talked about September and how good it has been to Patrick Mahomes. Same thing for Andy Reid. In his career, taking points in September, on the road, he's 12-3 against the spread. 3-0 when coming off a win. So he does know how to prepare his football team to win games, especially on the road. And again, I feel the pressure is all on Baltimore in this football game because they have to knock down the defending champions if they want themselves to be a champion. So we'll see whether or not they can step up or not.
All right, some quick ones. Tennessee's covered 7 straight after they play Jacksonville. They're a 2.5-point favorite at Minnesota. I have to ask you, the first 2 weeks of the season, Minnesota, Zimmer, he's been such a great cover coach. But the first 2 weeks, everything's gone the opposite. What do you do in that spot?
Well, what's happened here is obviously the loss of Stephon Diggs is really crippled the offense. And Kirk Cousins looked like he should have retired 3 years ago watching him perform on Sunday. It was pathetic. The effort that he put forward here. I don't see Mike Zimmer letting a team lose 3 times in a row, and I don't see Kirk Cousins possibly being as bad this week as he was last week. I'm going to hold my nose and take the points with the Vikes here.
Pittsburgh is 2-11 against the spread as a conference favorite of 6 or less, and they lost the spread last week in that similar role. Lucky to hold on, even with Jeff Driscoll at quarterback. And as much as I like Pittsburgh, you know, they barely beat Denver with Driscoll, and it wasn't like they rolled over the Giants either. So, and Houston, this is a desperate football team. You know, they don't want to go 0-3.
No, they don't want to go 0-3. In fact, this team has won the division for the last 5 years, have the Houston Texans, and they don't want to put themselves in that 0-3 hole. I'm going to play them plus the points in this football game here. Pittsburgh's gotten off to this pretty good start, but this is kind of not going to say a giant in Houston that's sleeping, but they're a sleeping football team that has known how to win football games and make it to the playoffs, and I think the points are the play in this game as well.
Of course, McCaffrey's out for Carolina. They're a 7.5-point dog to a rookie quarterback. And I know Herbert played great on Sunday, but that's still a lot of points to be. I mean, the Chargers aren't the Chiefs. Hey, let's just throw a rookie quarterback in there, and we should be favored by a touchdown over there. That's not normal. So I know he played great, but still, and I know Carolina's a bad football team, but I think that's a lot of pressure maybe to put on the shoulders of a kid in his second start. I can't imagine he's going to play all that much better in his second game. It's impossible. He played too well the first week.
Well, the key to that is just what you said. It's the second game. Now they have game film on him.
Yep.
It's not like he's going to catch them by surprise with their pants down.
And the Chiefs weren't preparing for Herbert.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, and it showed. So now Carolina can prepare for Herbert, knowing what's coming. And also, remember, the LA Chargers are one of the hard knocks teams. The two LA teams were the hard knocks.
Yes.
The reason I'm throwing that out is hard knocks teams really struggle the first half of the season as favorites. That's the role they'll be in this particular night. I got the number in the Playbook magazine or newsletter this week, but horrible role for hard knocks favorites first half of the season. I like Carolina plus the points there.
And then one thing before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, because I was doing the Miami Hurricane show, Cane Sport, with Gary Furman, and we talked about how when we did the show last Wednesday, the Louisville was a 2.5-point favorite, and then they got down to about pick 'em by Friday, and then all of a sudden it went to 2.5 favorite in like 24 hours to Miami. So in 3 days, it went from 2.5 to 2.5. Miami dog, Miami favorite. And then Miami went on and blew out. Kind of. It was really even though the score may not have been indicative of it, and they gave up a lot of yards, Miami kind of cruised in that game. Is there any particular reason that why everybody started to jump on Miami?
Nothing in particular that I'm aware of, Greg, other than the fact that there are a lot of sharps out there that like the Miami Hurricanes this football season.
Okay.
And I think they just didn't want to let them go off as an underdog, and I think that's what it was all about.
Interesting. All right. Well, they sure were right in that one. And the way Florida State looked a couple of weeks ago, even though it's 11 points, I wouldn't have a problem giving up 11 points for Miami. So it's good for college football when the programs like Miami start winning again, even though this might only be a one-year deal because King will be gone after the season.
Yeah, and even though those turnover chains are getting gaudier and gaudier every year.
Yeah. All right, Mark. Great job as always. Once again, playbook.com. That's where you want to send everybody, not just for the magazine, but you got your picks and you have the newsletter and the daily coffee emails. So that's where you got to go, right?
Yeah, check it all out at playbook.com, the newsletter, and we just started our midweek alert. That's our middle of the week newsletter. It goes out today as well. You can check it out online, playbook.com.